Shalom. We're just waiting. Dad is going to be calling me in a little minute or any moment. Um, oh, there he is. Shalom?
Hello. I'm going to speak to Tony Cox Golick.
Yes.
Tony Cox. Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
Hi,
This
Tony.
is her.
How are you?
Shalom,
Yeah.
Dad.
Hello to you. This is my daughter, by the way. I know I made it awful confusing
I
for
know.
people listening. Tony is my oldest, and she's. But now she has a married name and lives on the coast, man. One of these days she's coming. One of these days she's coming back.
Or we go.
What? I'm going back out there.
I'm also saying, like, what if we go to Vegas and then, because then Grandma and Grandpa, Colorado's right over there. I don't know. I know people always ask me, they're like, Tony, you say you're moving. And I'm like, I say that all the time. I have no idea. I'm still here.
Yeah.
I miss you guys, though. It is nice when I am home. I do Ohio. I didn't think that I would miss it as much as I do. All the greenage, all the stuff. It is very beautiful.
Well, that's nice to hear. It's nice to hear, but we miss you too. So, and but you guys are doing pretty well out there. I heard that Patrick just came back from a job, and so you guys are rolling. Have you any more? Did you get any more acting things?
I have not, but I mean, I guess, I basically got the commercial, and then we've been in, they weren't working for a while. So no.
Correct, yeah.
Which is very common. I mean, even the fact that I've booked a job is not common because most people, they go out to audition and never make anything. So.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I mean, hell, that happened to me all the time. So.
Yeah, you said, so people don't get it. Dad actually went to a part where it said, like a Bob Golick, and they did not give him the part.
And they did not give me the part. So that was the weirdest thing. And at that point, that's when I said, you know what? It really isn't a very sound future. But,
no.
But I had other things to do at the time. So, wasn't that big a deal.
Yeah.
For me, I would have loved to have been, go to all the red. I start watching these red carpet things now, and I'm just like, I wouldn't want to be anywhere near those places.
God,
those people are just whack jobs.
No. If you're talking about the Met Gala, that was just obscene and
obscene. Just... Yeah, that was nuts.
Hunger Games.
And by the way, did you hear that? Oh, I'm sure you did. Katy Perry didn't go, but through AI, they put her in publications in a nice dress and everything, and so she even came out and said that her mom saw her in the some of the publications from the pictures from that night, and said and called her daughter and said, "I thought you weren't going."
Yeah.
And Katie goes, "Yeah, they fooled my mom too."
That's what's so crazy with the AI stuff now.
Yeah, and I have to figure out how to be good at that.
Ugh.
So, well, for those who don't know, my daughter Tawny, about was it 7 years now?
8 years. This is my 8th year.
8 years now. Tawny was having headaches, severe, and she had migraines before, but these were like just not going away. We took her in a number of times to the to emergency rooms. They all said it's just a migraine. So basically, after a week of it's just a migraine, and one idiot numbing her skin on her head.
Nerve blockers. No, he shot me up with nerve blockers. The first emergency doctor is the reason why all of my other doctors misdiagnosed me, because they saw that I went to an emergency room and he didn't scan me. He shot me up with nerve blockers instead of scanning me. and seeing what was wrong. So that's where the big problem arises. And luckily, I don't know if mom told you this, dad, but the nonprofit that I work with, the Aneurysm and AVM Foundation,
Yes.
the usual acronym for strokes is Be Fast. But lately, that's why they've been missing so many hemorrhagic stroke survivors. So they added in there headaches, dizziness, nausea, because of not just my case, but so many others. Because if you would add those other indicators, so many of us would not have been misdiagnosed. Because when everybody asks me what's the difference, like I have a migraine, oh my gosh, is it a brain aneurysm? And I tell everybody, this was so sudden. If I wasn't in the shower, I would have thought somebody hit me in the head with something. That's how fast it came on. So I still deal with migraines, and every time I have a migraine, I do have to remind myself, this did not come on suddenly. I felt this. My sensitivity to light was nothing like I've ever experienced before. I threw up, which I don't throw up from migraines, but like mom throws up and Gage throws up. So I started to think maybe that's what I do now. Um, but you and mom were the most worried that I was not able to keep my eyes open. I kept falling asleep and my neck was so stiff. So you guys thought I had meningitis. So I still don't understand how a doctor.
Right. When we found out when you said your neck was really stiff, obviously that was one that led us into the meningitis thing, possible.
And so it's still weird to me that ER doctor, I mean, I remember you going, "Are you sure we don't need to do a spinal tap or anything?" And he's like, "No, she'll be fine." Like, I just don't understand. Now I can be like, if someone's in that much pain and you're going to validate it by numbing them, shouldn't you check first before you numb them?
Yeah.
I would think so.
There's no doubt about it. Yeah. So all the people that come out of medical school are not as well. I want to say they're not good. No, you know what?
They're humans. Doctors are still humans, and so at the end of the day, I don't share it to make anybody scared to be like, "Oh my gosh, don't trust your doctors." Not at all. I'm alive because of my doctors. But also, I remember telling myself, being like, "I'm in so much pain. This is so bad." And I told myself, that doctor didn't even scan you. So suck it up. And so I chose to listen to a doctor over myself, which, yes, that was my choice. But I just tell people, like, nobody knows your body better than you. And for some reason, the analogy of like, I don't know why with doctors, we go to the same doctor and we're like, he just says it's nothing. I'm like, if you had a car and you kept going to the mechanic and say, it's making this noise, and they never lift the hood, they never do anything, would you keep going back to that mechanic? No.
Of course not. Yeah.
You wouldn't.
You're exactly right.
And so I just think that when we realize that, yes, doctors are there as professionals to help us, but also it's a relationship. You don't work for me, I don't work for you. We are in this together to help find a solution. And so I just want to empower more people that I thought us asking for a scan was sufficient enough. But what I've learned is that you have to demand it. And if that doctor does say, no, you can say this, then I want a medical copy documentation of you denying me of my scan. Going to tell you right now, 9 times out of 10, he's probably not going to want to print that out, and they're probably going to do the scan for you. And here's my thing. I would rather be wrong and alive than the other alternative. So I think it's better safe than sorry. And I don't know why they don't scan more people when so many of us go misdiagnosed.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad, because I just know the last morning we said, if you're not feeling any better, we're going to go in the morning. And I woke up and you were sitting there staring at me. And so we went down to, what was it, Suma or Akron General? Or
that's, yeah. We went down to the Suma. We drove away from.
Right. Away from people who we had been visiting. We got her to the emergency room. They got her comfortable. They're looking at her, and Tawny had been having like double vision. She was trying to understand why that was happening. A doctor came in there and looked at her and said, "Get her into a scan right now." And she saw the headache, the eyes not being lined up right, and made the assumption that could be an aneurysm. And lo and behold, after they got the scan, that's what it was.
Yeah. I mean, it's so crazy to think that, thank heaven she saw that and knew to scan me. I know some people are saying, because I'm also live, of course, So hi everybody messaging. They're like, we love hearing you on your dad's show.
Yeah.
But because I didn't ask you all the time. So they took me back and scanned me, and I just remember from my point of view, she was just like, you have a subarachnoid hemorrhage, and you need to have an angiogram to see if it's still rupturing or not. But we don't have a doctor here who can do that. So you have to go to another hospital. And I remember arguing, like, can my dad just take me? I don't want to take the emergency. I don't want to pay the emergency bill. I don't want to take an emergency vehicle. Let my dad drive me. And she was like, no, no, no. I don't think you understand what's going on. Like, you have to be connected to things. You are like, this is serious. And then, I don't know, kind of.
And then I watched the gurney come in and the people that were driving her, and I looked, and the guy had a jumpsuit on with wings on it, and I went, "Oh crap!" And this is lifelike. And I looked at Tawny and tried to keep a straight face and not be scared. And I did this little thing with my finger, like spinning like the blades on a helicopter. And she, what did you say you thought I was doing?
Like, mom does that, like, round the wagons, like, get all your stuff together because we're about to head out. Like, get up, get it up, let's go.
And I was just spinning like helicopter blades. And then I tried to go with them, but there wasn't enough room in a helicopter. So they flew her up to, I think it was a Cleveland Clinic, and I violated many laws driving up there. But bottom line is, she came through it, and it's amazing. And it was, what would you say? What do they say now? It's like 50-50 a lot of times.
They said, he said, as soon as an aneurysm ruptures, it's like a bomb goes off in your brain and blood hits certain parts, and 50% usual mortality rate. 60% are usually left with permanent neurological damage, walking, talking, eating, all of those things. So the fact that not only my bomb went off on the 5th, and he goes, when they went in to do the angiogram, all the doctors figured there's no way she was bleeding this whole time, because usually aneurysms can sometimes shut themselves off, like close themselves off. Mazurek put his fingers together, and I remember, because that's what mom said, that's when it really clicked, because he put his fingers as close as possible. He goes, you were this close to death, because when we went in there, you were still rupturing. So that means for an entire week, you were bleeding into your brain. And I was using, guys, we did everything wrong. I was using neck massager. So that means I was massaging blood up and down don't know how I'm not paralyzed. Like, thank heavens. So thank you for all of you guys who did pray and sent positive vibes and everything. I know that dad came on and did say that on the radio, and I just have to, I say this because I know it happened, because this time last year, we actually got my brain scan and found that I had another brain aneurysm, and that my coils were slipping, just because I was misdiagnosed and they were never able to put the stent in the first place.
Yeah.
So they always kind of knew that was a risk, that my coils could slip, they could move, because there's no stent, there's no fence holding it all in. And so when I found out that news, of course, your first thought is, are you freaking kidding me? Of course. Of course, I'm the 1% of people who are going to have it again. But I told mom, I go, this is happening for me, because now I have the chance to stop it before it ruptures, to also advocate louder and feel a part of the process. Like, you got to go to that doctor's appointment that we went to, and
Hmm.
I know mom said, she goes, it was really cool to see the difference in you as a patient. She goes, and how you were able to advocate for yourself and ask the doctor questions. And, you know, I tell people now, I go, of course, you never want to have an aneurysm, but I can tell you living through one that ruptured and one that didn't, you want to get scanned, you want to be preventative. I mean, I only spent one night in the hospital for my second brain aneurysm, and
Yeah.
then I was home. So, I shared so that more people can just be aware that, if you've had migraines for a very long time, it's maybe something that you should bring up to your doctor. It might not be anything, aneurysm related, but sharing this story, one person actually went in and she finally got a scan and they actually found a benign tumor behind her orbital socket that would have caused her to go blind in the next couple months if they wouldn't have found it.
Wow, that's amazing. But but this is just, and as a matter of fact, this whole thing is the kind of the background to this story. Though Tawny is now working with lots of groups and has groups on started her own stuff on the internet with survivors and stroke survivors, aneurysm. I mean, the whole 9 yards. And though I just think it's something that people thought they were alone. So I was always very proud of you for how you handled the whole thing, and that you were able to put something positive together with it and help other people.
Thank you, Dad. Well, I told mom, I thank Dad and mom for always, you always encouraged me to make friends and talk to everybody and, to stick up for everyone. And so I remember you always doing things with the Special Olympics and stuff and then working in special education. So I joked in a way, I feel all of those things happened to prepare me for all of this because um I could very easily not be able to talk. In fact, our grandma Rhodey joked
Yeah.
that she goes, I thought the stroke was going to slow down your speech. and
Nope.
so, so I make that joke as I tell people I heal loudly because I know what it feels like to be misdiagnosed and to feel alone because the doctors just kept telling me, I don't know, you're so different. You're so young. We don't know. And so
Yeah.
I know that all of us warriors, survivors, however you want to identify, the thing is, in life, we're all healing from something. We really are. So it's
Nope. Yeah.
just, I found finding more people, I'm not a doctor, but sometimes other people can give you tips or suggestions, or honestly, just knowing that someone else has felt like that so you don't feel so crazy can be really, really helpful.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. But moving from that, you had an episode. Last week? You said.
Oh, yeah.
Did you want to address that and kind of vent a little bit
Are you talking about my flight situation?
about the stuff? Yeah, about the, because that's what I thought initially you wanted to talk about. But
Oh,
because
yeah.
I know you texted me about the Southwest thing, and then you said I got to come on the show.
Oh, yeah, I was livid about that, and then I'm trying to be, like, not as livid and be more productive with it. So, I will give the scenario. After my stroke, I deal with anxiety. So, even though I have flown since I was 3, when I fly, what I've realized is I'm worried that when I go up in the altitude that something could go wrong and I will get misdiagnosed again. No one will notice. They'll just think I'm some girl passed out asleep drunk and not that something's wrong with me. So, when I fly by myself, I have a lot of anxiety. So,
Sure.
people have told me after I had my second brain surgery, you need to do medical on board. Now, even though I had had surgery and I should have used a wheelchair, I was like, no, 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 let me walk. Long story short, I used it. It was great. It helped me not have so much anxiety, being able to get on the plane and get myself situated and know that the flight attendants know that something's up with her medically, so I should keep an eye on her, you know?
Right.
So I've done it a couple times now. I finally fly out to Vegas. It's my first time. I'm like, Mom, I'm loving flying again. I didn't have any anxiety. It's so good. Like, I'm finding my way. And so I'm flying home and I go up to the ticketing agent and I tell her, I need medical early on board. I do it all the time. I've had 2 brain surgeries. And she's like, okay. And she goes to ask me questions. And looking at me, I understand I look fine. I talk very fast. So you have no idea that I have processing issues. So when you rapid fire questions at me, I either say yes to everything or I say no. Like I hear you, but I just go, yeah, yeah, or no, no.
Right.
So she asked
Right.
me,
Right.
do you need assistance onto the plane? And I don't need a wheelchair. So I said no. And then she said, do you need a specific seat? And I was thinking she was meaning like I need to say I have to sit in 1A or 1C. And so
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I said no. And so the woman who is helping me, who is in the middle, goes, well, then you don't qualify. And I said, wait, what? I don't understand. I do this. I've had 2 brain surgeries. That is when Adrian, who is not helping me, decides to interject herself into a conversation. And Adrian decides to tell me that this is for people who actually need it. You clearly don't need it. And she is now raising her voice so people around are looking. And she goes, this is only for people who actually need it. You don't. And I said, how do you know that I don't? I said, I have a medical card. And she said, you don't need it. So you can just go. And she starts yelling. And that's when I said, how dare you invalidate my disorder? You don't know anything about me. And I did say, I'm an awareness ambassador and I want your name and your manager because I'm going to talk to your manager. So she gave me her name, Adrian. I walked away. I went live on Facebook so that I could catch her in the background on the live video because I had a feeling that Southwest would maybe not want to believe me or something. So I caught her in the back of it. And then I proceeded to call customer service, let her know about the situation, which she, of course, apologized for and was like, you should not have to show your cards. And I said, I know I haven't had to before, but she wouldn't even give me the chance. Like she just was yelling at me. And so she goes, can you, because it was 9 o'clock at night. So customer service was not open. And she was like, can you please go up to somebody else up there and ask them? So that's when I go up to the third gate agent who is Susan. And I was like, Susan, I apologize. I understand how I answered those things. And I explained, I have a processing, just blah, 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 all the things. And she said, absolutely. So she re-asked me the questions. I said no to needing assistance, but yes, I do need a seat in the front. I need people to know that if something is wrong with me, that I need help. And so she said, okay. Right. I had my cards in my hand and she said, well, thank you for handling it this way. We actually had a gentleman earlier who screamed at me because he has PTSD. So in my head, I'm like, oh, so this is a thing you guys do. You invalidate people who say they need medical assistance. You yell at us. Cool. And as soon as Susan, I didn't say that out loud, but I thought it. But as soon as Susan handed me my ticket, I just was like so overwhelmed with emotions that I just started bawling. And Adrian was up at the counter and she did, because mom was like, I bet you she felt so bad. I go, no, she didn't. She watched me cry and bawl my eyes out and she just shook her head like, good for you. Like, so I'm upset that Southwest heard. Patrick also called and complained, and Southwest sent me $100 voucher as their apology. When they overbook flights and they offer people $200, so embarrassing me, causing me like I finally got over my fear of flying, and now I'm afraid to go ask for help again out of fear of getting yelled at.
But you got $100 out of it.
Yeah, that was so nice. I was like, how about I never want to fly your airline again? Because now that I've talked about it, I'm finding other people have had issues with Southwest.
Yeah. Well, they don't even assign seats, do they? I mean, they're
one of
those ones that just says, hey, come on in, fight for his chair.
Yeah. And I guess
like musical chairs.
Yeah, like musical chairs. Exactly.
And we stop the music and sorry, here's $200. You're gonna have to take another flight.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm just hoping, I said it's not even about the money. It's just more about like, I'm like, I want to make sure do they need more training? Because just
Mhm.
if you're a ticketing agent and someone comes up to you and says they need medical assistance, like your response to that should not be to yell at them and tell them, no, you don't.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to say, I don't know what customer service training she had. I was like, but I definitely think Adrian, and I know I'm usually bad with names, but I made sure I remembered it because Adrian was a little a-hole and Susan was sweet. So I will never forget those names.
You got them. You got them up. All right. Well, I'm. Have you heard from anybody else about it? Well, I'm sure that online as you are every day, I'm sure a lot of people are probably finding out about the way people are being treated. You know what? And I don't know. This this day and age, we seem to be less understanding about other people's feelings.
Yeah.
And unless by law we're supposed to do it. I don't know. There just seems to be a lot of bad stuff out there, and people aren't doing anything to make anything better.
But that's why I was like, I could just let it go. And that's why I was like, no, I'm not going to just let it go, because if you're going to do this to me, you're going to continue to do it. And I know a year ago, I would not have stood up for myself. I probably would have had a panic attack with her yelling at me like that. I would have just taken it. I probably would have missed my flight. So I know it won't change right away, but speaking with more advocates and just getting louder. And, I made on Twitter or X, whatever, I tagged them. I haven't got a response, but I just go, it's the more of us speaking up about it, hopefully we can make a change.
Gotcha. Well, Ton, you have a great weekend. What you got planned? Anything good?
I think I'm going to do some gardening. What about you guys for Mother's Day?
I'm thinking about. Oh, by the way, I meant to say this too, because I'm having another friend of mine on next hour. We're being hit by a gigantic coronal mass ejection, 5 of them today. They'll be coming in, and they said that it's going to throw off the vibrations and electrical of everything, and then they said, and I said, would it be okay would it be beneficial to ground or do the grounding or earthing? And they said, oh, absolutely. So this weekend's going to be bad for that. So
this weekend, make sure you ground. Okay.
Make sure you ground. I was out there with the dogs in the backyard, just in my jeans, laying there in the grass, going, "Okay, bring it on."
I love it. I love that you do that now. I know mom's like, you got dad ground. I go, it helps. I go, there's science behind it. I know you thought it was all hippie woo woo, didn't you? Until you started looking into it and you're like, oh, wow.
There you go. All right, Tom.
All
Thank you.
Love you, Dad.
Feel better, baby. I love you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
All right. Wow. First of all, Annie, I'm glad, I half read that comment and then I probably would have kept crying. But yeah, it's crazy. It's kind of weird sometimes when I think about it. Like, poor dad had to think. I know it's sad because my mom's always like, I just feel so bad that I wasn't there. But I go, Mom, I honestly think dad had to be there because I love you, but you are reactive. In your eyes, you would have freaked out. And I go, and imagine if I would have panicked, I would have had a flush. My pulse would have started. I go, and something different could have happened. So I truly believe everything happens for a reason. You don't always know why. And I know that I know as I just said that, my immediate inner critic was just like, well, then why did that have to happen? And I don't know. And it doesn't always seem like that. But sometimes I'm like, maybe it was because I had to stay home so that, I didn't get in some car accident or something. So I do try to look at the bigger picture. And I do really have to thank you guys for letting me share and also just sharing when you guys do have things. I heard recently, it was really cool. It said women have a different thing between, we don't just have fight or flight. We also have tend and something. So when we are in really stressful situations, that's why we have a tendency to want to go chat with our girlfriends. And have you ever felt so much better after you've gone and just released all that? You're like, oh, maybe they didn't even give you solutions. You just vented it all out. Which I'm gonna be honest, most of the time, I don't want solutions. I just want to fucking vent about it for a couple minutes and then I'll go problem solve. But I thought that was really cool. It said that actually did a study with cancer patients that women who had support systems had a better time in recovery because you need people. So I appreciate you guys for being my people. I appreciate that you got to have a little father daughter chat. I feel bad. He wanted to talk about I thought he wanted to talk the stroke thing. I forgot. I was like, oh yeah, Southwest thing happened. Now we're on to the stroke awareness month. Then we'll go back to I'm still going to advocate on that. In fact, if you guys have more information, I did hear about some sunflower project where you wear sunflowers represent you have like an invisible disability. So I'm learning more about that, but also I know if I don't know about it, that means not everybody does. So um, I will be sharing. Also, if you guys learn anything, please share it. If I am missing something, I am going to go back through. I know on these it's interesting because you see some Facebook, you see some YouTube. Um, and so I do apologize when you guys say shalom and I didn't say a shalom back. Like Elizabeth, I see you on, and Annie. And I know I bet a couple of you said shalom and I didn't say it. But I will be going back through the replay and just, yeah, I appreciate you guys so freaking much. Get your walk in. We're crawling out of the depressy and stressy, I can definitely say, because I just now got in my clothes. Oh my God, did you hear that, Ella? Did you hear that? Oh, the weekend giveaway info for my ketones and all that stuff is on my resource page. Anything you have questions with, please reach out. My inbox is open. Oh, I'm not on Instagram, so it doesn't matter. I was like, over there, I can't comment or like, so I can comment and like on Facebook and YouTube. So just find me over here. All right. I love you guys. That might be crazy. There's people out there who hate people for no reason. So I'm gonna keep on giving love. Oh, and Annie, look, did you see the overalls I'm in? Did the one